Hello everybody, welcome back to another video, and today we're once again going to be going over Major Hurricane Dorian. So since yesterday, this storm has weakened a little bit. It's at 155 miles an hour. It's still a Category 4 hurricane. It's very dangerous, and it's right here across the Bahamas. And you can see that eye. My gosh, that is crazy. You can see that eye is very put together. The storm is really put together, but just to look at that eye, it's fascinating. But even though it looks fascinating, it is not fascinating if you're there. And if we were to go across parts of the Grand Island of the Bahamas, you can see how bad they are getting hit right now. You can see that the eye is over part of the islands, and it's been over there for hours just because the system is moving west at 1 mile an hour. So the system hasn't made that northern turn as it is anticipated right now, and I'm not fully surprised. I have been kind of thinking we might not take that as soon as they do think, just because this system's so strong, something might not be able to turn it if it's so strong. So I am a little concerned about the turn. It might or might not turn, but right now it's looking like it will turn. But if you're along the eastern Florida coast, just be ready if it does not make that turn, because it could come your way. At some point, it is going to make a turn. We just don't know when. It could go inland and then make the turn, which is the worst, which is our worst fear right now. But we will have to see. Okay, so you can see it's over the Grand Islands and then the Abaco Island, and that one's getting hit really bad too. Yesterday I saw some videos. They were so sad. It's just devastating. And you can see how they're getting hit by the eastern part of the storm. And you can see how the eye wall is somewhere along here. So the eye wall just kind of left them. It's not it's kind of warming, kind of cooling down a little bit there, but you can see how bad they are getting hit right now. It's really bad for them. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to the track, and you can see once again it's moving at 1 miles an hour west, so still no turn, as I did say, and then 155 mile per hour winds, and this is at now, as I did say, this is only 1 miles an hour below a Category 5. So it's the same thing, pretty much. It's just, just a little different. So there's, we can't really point out that. But you can see how we do have a lot of hurricane warnings, some storm surge watches, tropical storm warnings, tropical storm watches, hurricane watches, all that along a lot of the eastern Florida coast. And you can see how right now they are projecting it to move north pretty soon. Now, right now it's not moving, but the one thing that is saving us from this is how slow it's moving. It's not saving the Bahamas, especially. Like, the Bahamas are getting hit really bad, but the one thing that is helping out America is this really slow movement, so it has more time to kind of take that northern turn. If this was going 15 miles an hour, it wouldn't have enough time and it hit Florida. But since it's so slowed down, it won't get too far before it does make that turn, as we are anticipating, which is the only good thing with this system. Now you can see they still do have the cone across parts of Florida. Also parts of Georgia and South Carolina are in that cone. And it'll be around Florida as a major hurricane, so they do need to watch out, because this could be hitting as a major hurricane if it does not make that turn as soon as we think. And you can see how this kind of extends all the way out to Raleigh, North Carolina, into parts of Delaware, into Maryland, southeastern Virginia, but also a lot of it does move this way. Now, we are not expecting right now for it to do something like this. I'm not thinking that's going to happen. I'm anticipating it to do something like this, something like that. But right now, that's what I'm thinking. That's a little different with them, but that's what I'm thinking. Now, if we were to go ahead and move on to the U.S. rainfall potential, you can see how we are expecting quite a bit of rain, even across the Florida coast. Again, it kind of went away, now it's back. And you can see across parts of the eastern part of the Florida coast, we are going to be seeing about 6 to 10 inches of rain. That is a lot of rain. Even though we're not getting a direct impact right now, it will still be pretty bad. The only good thing is you're getting that western side of the storm. So pretty much, the western side of the storm isn't as bad, and once you get on the eastern side of the storm, you can see how it's a little worse. Now, that's going to be the case for a lot of the southeast. We're getting the western side of the storm. Now, the western side of a Category 4 hurricane is still pretty bad, because it's a Category 4 hurricane. But as this does move up the coast, it does turn into a Category 2 somewhere around here. It should be a Category 3 somewhere around here, somewhere like that. And you can see how we are expecting a lot of rain across the Georgia coast, somewhere between 5 and 10 inches, and also across parts of the South Carolina coast, 5 to 10 inches, maybe even a little bit more. And you can see as same thing as we move across the North Carolina coast. Now, even in parts of the North Carolina coast around Wilmington and just some isolated spots across a lot of the coast across North Carolina, we could be seeing 10 to 15 inches of rain. So almost a foot of rain in some areas we could be expecting, which that is catastrophic. That is not good, and this does lead into the flash flooding potential. So you can see we do have a pretty good chance for some flash flooding across the Florida coast, the Georgia coast, the South Carolina coast, and parts of the North Carolina coast in the next 3 days. Now, this is not saying we're not going to see any flash flooding across here, but we aren't going to see it in the next 3 days. Now, if this was in the next 5 days, we would probably extend that red all the way up into here, maybe even extend a high, get a high chance. We don't have that yet, but I would put a high chance if it was the next 4 to 5 days or something like that. I just did want to point that out. Now, I do want to cover one more thing, and this is storm surge. So, if many of you don't know what storm surge is, this is just when the ocean is just coming on shore so much and then it stacks on top of itself. This is kind of what that is, and it does pretty bad. It's really bad. So across the Bahamas, we saw a lot of that. About 13 to 20 feet of storm surge we could be expecting. I don't know what my mouse was doing. And you can see how across parts of the Florida coast, we could be seeing maybe 1 foot of storm surge. That's not terrible, but it's not good to have storm surge at all. You can see across parts of near Miami, we're not expecting much storm surge. But if we were to get up around here, you can see we do have some storm surge to come in. And maybe even in some of those barrier islands, we could be seeing 3 feet of storm surge. So that's 36 inches of the ocean above what it usually is. That does extend up into Daytona Beach, Port Orange, Palm Coast. We could be expecting that too. And there even is a possibility we could see 6 feet above the ground if this does get a little bit more inland. Now you can see as we move into the Georgia, it's the same deal, almost about 3 to 6 feet of storm surge, maybe a little less, but anywhere between 1 and 4 is our greatest chance across a lot of the southeast coast. But once we get over here into parts of South Carolina, this is where it does change a little bit. So this is near your Myrtle Beach. I'm very familiar with this area. I go here a lot, and it's a really a lot of people don't say it's a very nice area. I do find it as a nice area. If you go a little bit, if you get out of Myrtle Beach, it's a really nice area. But it's, a lot of people do love to travel there. I do love it there. And you can see how they could be expecting about 3 to 6 storm surge across a lot of the South Carolina coast. Hilton Head, you could be seeing a little bit, not the worst for you in Hilton Head, but parts of Charleston into here. I don't know an exact location. It didn't give me any cities when I zoomed in. But if you know where you are, Winyah Bay, McClensville, or something like that, you can see that where that is happening right there. Not good, 3 to 6 feet above ground. And across Myrtle Beach, about 3 feet above ground, which is not good either. Now as we move into North Carolina, across Wilmington, we could see some storm surge anywhere between 1 to 3 feet, maybe a little bit more. And you can see that's kind of the case across a lot of the coast of North Carolina. You can see some areas there's a little bit more. And you can see once we get into these barrier islands, there will definitely be some too. But you can see even inland, there's some going on, 3 feet. Elizabeth City, there's some going on. So you can see there's quite a bit going on when it comes to storm surge, which can be the worst part of a system. Now, I've saw almost no one talk about this, which is really surprising. No one's really been talking about storm surge, which is a little saddening because that can be the worst part of the storm. So I did want to cover that pretty quickly just to show y'all. Okay, so here we go on to the spaghetti models. I know we've been looking at these constantly. It's pretty much the same thing we look at every single video, a lot of these tabs, but they have been changing quite a bit, so I do like to just show them. And you can see how the spaghetti models are taking it off the Florida coast, so it takes that northern turn, then goes northeast, and we are expecting it to make landfall possibly in parts of North Carolina. It could happen across coastal North Carolina, and you can see how that does, after it does that, somewhere around here is when the storm really starts to speed up. So it should be from here to here in one day. So that's about your Friday to your Saturday right now. And you can see how it goes for, it could go for Nova Scotia, or it could go for Newfoundland. You can see on the top up there, it could go for any of those areas after in Canada. But right now, it's looking like we could see landfall across the Florida coast, but not very likely, but we still are going to have to keep a close eye on that for a little while, and we will have to see. But right now we are expecting that northern turn, then that northeast turn across parts of South Carolina and North Carolina, where we could possibly see landfall in North Carolina. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to the intensity guidance. And this has changed a lot the past few days when it's just really all over the place. But you can see how this is when it was Category 5, and you can see how a lot of them did keep it up here. So these models were, you have to remember, it's already a Category 4. So we're around here now, and it's already dipped down a little bit. No, I wouldn't say it's exactly where we are. Somewhere around here. We're really close. And you can see how we are expected to weaken, and it should be at a Category 2 when it's somewhere around the South Carolina coast, and then it should remain like that until it hits North Carolina. And then once it gets more past North Carolina, just out into the Atlantic Ocean where the conditions aren't as favorable, it should go from a Category 1 hurricane to a tropical storm, and then a tropical depression later on near Nova Scotia possibly, or maybe even nothing then. It could be a tropical storm when it gets near there too. So anywhere from a depression to a tropical storm when it gets near your Nova Scotia area, that's what it's looking like right now. We will have to see how that does change, but right now that's what we are expecting. When it comes to the intensity guidance, that always does change, but right now this is our best guess. Okay, if we were to look at the European model, you can see how right now we are, as you saw in the satellite imagery, we are over the Bahama area. So northern Bahamas is where we're getting hit the worst. The southern Bahamas are getting hit, not as bad, but they are still getting hit, and you can see how some of these impacts are already coming into the Florida coast. I mean, there's a Category 4 hurricane off the Florida coast, and all those people from Florida, a lot of them don't even care. Like, there's a Category 4 hurricane right there, and they're really calm. I mean, I know everybody's getting ready, everybody's ready, but they're just really calm about it, which is crazy. I know they're really used to it, but I just thought that was a little weird. Now, you can see how this does keep going west until sometime tonight and early tomorrow morning. And you can see sometime tomorrow morning, we are expecting it to move north a little bit. So it'll be around here, and then it should make that northern turn. Now, the question is, will it keep going west and then make a northern turn here? That is definitely a possibility. Or it could do something like this and make a northern turn there, which is our worst case scenario. And we also do have hurricane warnings there across this area. We do have hurricane warnings, so I would not be too surprised if that does happen. But you can look at the wind gusts, and we already have some pretty good wind gusts across here, anywhere from 50 to 70 miles an hour. And you can see in the Bahamas, we're still seeing 144 mile per hour wind gust, or maybe even more. So that is not good when it comes to winds, but especially the rain. I'll show you the rain totals in a little bit, and you can see how bad they are. Now you can see how a lot of those rains in the storm do actually make it into eastern Florida. So the other day, we were thinking, oh, this might not happen. We might not see too much rain across the Florida coast. We still won't see the most rain across the Florida coast, but it's looking like we could see some impacts, which is not good. Storm surge, some winds, also rainfall. We're going to be seeing it all, even severe weather. So you do need to be ready if you're in Florida. Even though you're not getting a direct impact, you still are going to be impacted pretty badly. So you can see how Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, we are getting hit like around there, around your Thursday night. Timing will probably change. Right now, this is what we're thinking. And you can see the wind gusts are pretty intense, anywhere from 70 to 90 miles an hour. And you can see right off the coast, there's 100 to 130 mile per hour wind gusts. So if this track was to move a little west, we can see way worse winds. But right now, it says wind gusts of 95 in Myrtle Beach and around the 50 area for our sustained winds. So you can see how we do keep moving northeastern, and you can see across Wilmington we are seeing the impacts by your really late Thursday night into really early Friday morning. I don't think anybody's usually awake. I know some people do have to wake up this early, but around your 3 a.m. time frame. And you can see how we do have some really bad wind gusts. Now, if we were to keep moving, now this is when it really does start to speed up. And you can see how by your Friday morning, about when school starts, you can see how we do have like 100 mile per hour wind gusts. So this is when a lot of the destruction could happen across the North Carolina coast. But gladly, this is the only good thing about this, is it should be moving fairly quickly. And by your Friday night, it should be across near the mid-Atlantic coast, also parts of the northeastern coast, where we could see a lot of those surf impacts. We will see some possible rain coming in from those outer bands, but not expecting significant impacts in the northeast. But you can see how this does move into Nova Scotia, and that's pretty much the end of it for us. You see it goes right south of Nova Scotia, then it hits Newfoundland, and then it pretty much just goes away for us. And you can see how it even goes towards Greenland, and it may cause some snow across there, which is actually pretty cool to watch how it does all this across. You can see how it's affecting. It pretty much affected everywhere across. It's pretty much going to affect all these areas. That is just absolutely crazy how much it is. How much is affecting people, which is I thought was pretty cool. But you know, when you think about the people being affected, it's not. But if you think about how many places it's going, I thought that was pretty cool to see. But you can see how across the Bahamas we should see another. We could see another foot of rain to 2 feet of rain still falling. So not good, maybe even a little bit more than 2 feet of rain. And you can see how once this moves into the Florida coast, somewhere across 5 to 7, maybe even 8 inches of rain. And then across the Georgia coast, this has around maybe 3 inches of rain, maybe a little less, maybe a little bit more. And you can see across the South Carolina coast, anywhere from 5 to 8 inches. And pretty much the same deal across the North Carolina coast. We can see anywhere from 5 to 8 inches, isolated spots of 10 or 11, maybe even a foot of rain. And then Virginia Beach, you're seeing around 7 inches of rain. D.C., you're still under an inch of rain. If this was to move a little west, D.C. would be affected a little bit more, which is really bad because there's a lot of people there, as you do know. But we will have to see what does happen there. And then you see it moves into Nova Scotia, not directly, but a little south of it. They will still see some surf impacts. And you can see across Newfoundland, we get those rain impacts, surf impacts, possible wind impacts too. So that's what we're seeing there. Now, when I talk about this northern turn, I know a lot of people might be wondering, what do you mean by this northern turn? Why is it making this northern turn? So if we were to look what is steering this system right now, there's really nothing steering it. So if we were to look at right now, there's really nothing in the way. You can see how we do have a high pressure over here, but really it's kind of squeezing in between them, and it's really not being affected. It's, you know, that's why it's so slow. It's its own system, and it doesn't have anything moving it right now. Now, if we were to move into, let's say, into your Wednesday or maybe Tuesday around there, let's go into your Tuesday. So you can see how this high pressure has kind of backed off, but you can see how it's starting to move down a little bit. So if we were to keep looking at this by your next 6 hours, I'm pretty sure, next day, you can see how the system's still not moved that much. It has started to make that northern turn, and you will see why. So you can see there's this high pressure kind of pressuring the system, not directly, not really bad, but you can see how there's this one over here. So there is something that is messing the system, messing with it, and that is going to be our high pressure. So you can see how the reason this speeds up so much by the time it gets to Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, maybe even the northern Florida coast, you can see why is because of all this high pressure around it that's really just steering it. And you can see how it's kind of just finding its way in the middle. So really anywhere it could be going could be somewhere in here, which is kind of what the National Hurricane Center is saying. Not directly what they're saying, but it is kind of what they're saying. Now you can see into the next day they are still pushing it, going a little south, but it's still pushing it, and you can see how it does actually move out by your hour 120. It's starting to definitely move out and should be out of here by your 144 hours. And you can see that high pressure is actually still pushing it along, which is what we were looking at this whole time, and why we were expecting that northern turn. So if this high pressure was not to be, if it was to come a little later, or if it was to be a little weaker, that means the system could go west a little bit more. Now, you got to think about this. This system is its own system right now. Nothing really messing with it, nothing really in the way. But you do have to think about it. It's only moving at 1 mile an hour west, so it'd be a while to make a landfall in Florida if it just kept going 1 mile an hour. Now, if this high pressure comes into play, it should be somewhere near the Florida coast. You can see it's right here, impacts all the way over Florida, and you can see how it's just made it there, and then it made the northern turn. So it's just moving so slowly when we make that northern turn, it still shouldn't be directly on the Florida coast, but we will definitely have to see. But you can see right now that's what we're expecting it to remain off the Florida coast, and with a lot of impacts across there. Georgia impacts South Carolina, impacts North Carolina, impacts Virginia, impacts Delaware, impacts. There's a lot of areas across the southeast coast, maybe in parts of the mid-Atlantic coast, where we could be seeing these impacts of rain. Of course, rain and flooding are kind of the same thing. When it comes to tropical systems, you have wind, and then you have storm surge. There's just a lot coming into play in this system that we are going to have to be watching. But right now, this is my best forecast. Of course, I'll have another video on it tomorrow. Why not? I mean, there's nothing. There's a lot of stuff in the Atlantic going on, but this is what is threatening the U.S. and the Bahamas right now, which is why I do need to cover it. Okay, guys, I hope y'all did enjoy today's video. It was a little bit of a long one, but I did want to get out the most information and keep everyone safe. If you did enjoy, leave a like down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, and be safe if you're in the path of the system. Just be really safe and aware. Get your plan ready, and just be really safe. I promise you, be better safe than sorry. You will not regret it. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.